All right, well, welcome back, everybody. My name's Andrew, and you're watching the Kelley's Country Life. So today is all about installing our doors. So I apologize, it's still very early in the morning, so we've got shadows cast everywhere. It's very hard to see, but things will lighten up as the day goes on. But yes, y'all, we finally got our doors in. So we have this one here. Maybe this one might be easier to see. I doubt it. But here we go. So real quick about the style, because I know a lot of viewers have been asking about our doors and what's going on. And then ultimately we're going to show you how we're going to install these right here. All right, I apologize talking to you with glasses on. I know that bothers some people, but it's stinking bright out here, y'all. So why did we go with what we did? Because I know I'm going to get some questions from y'all on that. So for one, ultimately, my wife got to choose the style, everything to do with the door, because she likes that type of things. And we knew from the get-go, we did not want no big, extravagant doors anywhere on the house. Some people are going to ask probably why we didn't do glass down the sides and things like that. We ultimately like a door to provide some security and privacy. Tiffany especially doesn't like huge glass windows to where somebody can just walk up and next thing you know, you look over at your door and somebody's staring in your house, whether that be the UPS driver or whatever that is. So she wanted some privacy. So with that decision, we knew we wanted to pick a quarter light glass window. That means quarter of the door glass at the top. We didn't want to do full length again. She also went with a very special glass up here that's a privacy glass as well. So this will show off better once we're installed, but if you can see, this is all like a stained glass, this privacy bubble type glass look here. It's got some really cool effects in it that the camera are not going to show. This was all picked out and custom built for us, but what she did do is leave 3 clear glass pieces in the center, so when we're inside, we still have a view to look out and see who's at the door. But overall, we still get the privacy that we want. Somebody's literally going to have to be on their tippy toes looking up in there to see inside of the home. So like I said, we did order these in and have them built to our specs. So it took several weeks to make that happen. Thank goodness it didn't take months like everything else is taken. And something else that we decided to do special for these doors. So we went ahead and upgraded and went with what I call a premium door. It's all fiberglass, nothing to rot there. I've had steel doors in the past. While they are cheaper, eventually they will rust through. It doesn't seem like it matters how much coats of paint you got on them. Eventually you start seeing specks of rust everywhere. So we went with full fiberglass doors, and we also went with PVC brick mold here. So there's really nothing to rot on this door at all. Should be a long-lasting door. All right, for starters, before you install the door, just like a window or anything else, measure the door top to bottom, left to right. Make sure your opening is correct and will allow proper clearance to install your door, because now is the time to go ahead and shim out, adjust, trim wood, do whatever you need to do. Also, make sure your concrete is level down at the bottom. Ultimately, that's what the door is going to be sitting on, and how it's going to set it up for how plumb it's going to be. I've already checked that. Now what I'm about to do is clean off this concrete, because we have to put a nice good seal down here with some silicone I'm going to use. You can use all different kinds of stuff to seal the bottom plate of the door down to that concrete itself to not allow air, bugs, everything else in. So let me grab a broom, clean this off, and we'll go ahead and get this thing set in. So I'm using a silicone based product called Through the Roof. It's just a clear silicone, but it is designed and says right here on it that it's able to bond to cement, to galvanized metal, aluminum flashings, everything. It's a really good, very sticky product. So being that I'm about to bond a metal kick plate or foot plate to concrete, great product to use. And I want to put it on nice and thick, because this is what's going to keep ants, roaches, bugs, and air from coming up underneath that foot plate. And the reason I want to go with silicone here, not caulk, this stuff stays flexible forever. It's not going to dry up and crack like caulk does. Now this is an extremely heavy door. It's going to be difficult for me to lift by myself, but I can just barely manage it. It's definitely best to do this with 2 people. Now before you install this door, all of them come with little plastic locks on the side. You have to get that out now. Once you put the door in, you can't access this anymore. It's just a plastic screw with a little release piece on the inside. Now you can leave that piece on the inside till you set the door, but this has to come out. I'll pop this piece out on the inside. Now when I open the door, it'll actually pull and hold this frame here, so I don't have to worry about it falling back out on me. All right, so this is a really good time to go ahead and start checking level and adjusting the door. And as I can see, I'm way off. Looks like the door frame is like this, so I need to knock this bottom corner in that direction. This is also a good time to start checking the reveal or the gap around the door. As you can see, I have a decent gap here, but it gets tight as I go all the way up. So that means the frame is shifted this way. I've already shifted the door over to where I have a similar gap over here as the bottom. As you see, the top opens up a lot, and the level is also showing this door isn't plumb. That's where these wooden shims come in. So I'll start inserting these until I can work the door over, and then we'll eventually get these sandwiched and nailed into place. All right, so I've got my shims inserted. I'll start checking the door frame with the level. That looks about absolutely perfect right there. And then we'll also close the door and make sure all the gaps look good. All right, the door's rubbing a little. We'll take care of that in a minute with some screws. All my gaps are looking about even. We'll do another quick check all the way around with the level. Looks good. All right, now that everything looks nice and plumb and the reveal looks very close, again, we'll adjust that with screws. Go ahead and pop a few of these brad nails in through the brick mold on the outside into the frame itself. And this will help hold the door, keep it from shifting on me, although you can still bend these nails to get your final adjustment. But more importantly, this keeps the door from falling outside on me. All right, so now one thing that I'm going to do is take one of these screws out of the hinges. See, it comes with a nice short screw that only goes into the door frame, and I'm going to replace it with some 3-inch screws that get all the way into the wood and the frame all the way around. But before I go off and tighten this too terribly much, I'm going to shim behind this and adjust that gap, that reveal all the way around to make sure everything looks perfect around the door itself. All right, so now I will take some of these wooden shims, and you can also flip them around, do all kinds of stuff here to get just what you're looking for. We'll put those in right there before we tighten down. So now that these are in, I'm going to check the gap around the door right here. Looks like we do have some inconsistencies to work out, and all I've got to do is keep going outside, loosen that screw, working my shims in and out until I get the desired gap that I'm looking for. All right, so I've got my reveal very close to what I'm looking for. I had to put some wedges in here and actually bend the door frame back toward the door just a little. So in this particular instance, there's no screw or nothing to hold my wedges, and eventually they would work themselves loose, especially opening and closing the door. So what we need to do is shoot a little brad nail in through the door to hold these before we trim these off flush. All right, so I can look through the door and see that my shims are right there. I don't want to just shoot a brad out here, although I could caulk that and eventually paint it. You can just pull this weather stripping back and shoot a brad in behind it through those shims. Now we'll still caulk that, but you can't see it unless you're looking in probably from y'all's angle. Now that's through the shims themselves and they can be trimmed off and they're not going anywhere. All right, I know it's very hard to see, but we have another issue over here. The reveal is way off. This door frame is bowed way in and is touching the wall, and we have a huge gap right here. So in between the door handle and deadbolt, I'm going to work some shims back there to work this out. And all the while I'm doing this, I'm keeping an eye on this gap where the door closes to the frame to make sure that looks good. Plus, we need to be opening and closing the door, making sure we don't bow this out too far that the door actually rubs. All right, so now that we got the shims in, got the reveal correct on the door, everything's fitting nicely, what I'm gonna do is I wanna shoot some screws into this side. Keep in mind, we can take every single screw out of the hinge on this side and shoot like a 3-inch deck screw or a robust screw through over there. That really keeps the door in good, keeps it from being pulled out easily in the event of a break-in. So I also want to get some screws on this side. Plus, it's just going to hold the door real steady. Let's be honest, break-ins nowadays, people with crowbars and cordless tools, you can just about break in anything quite easily if you want to. But let's just say we're putting the screws in for the sake of really securing this up. I don't want to trust just a few brad nails holding this in over the years, not allowing it to shift out. So right in between the deadbolt and door is a good place to put a screw. I want to hide it kind of like I did the nail, so I will pull this weather stripping back. I'm going to drill me a hole through this shim that you're seeing right here and through the door frame. And I'm only drilling through far enough till I touch the double studs on the inside. I don't want to drill through those because I want the screw to bite in really well. And don't forget, we're also going to be shooting screws in where these mounting plates go to where the door latches actually latch in. So we'll have quite a few screws on this side to really secure the door. Now I'll take a countersink bit and actually drill a countersink hole everywhere I just drilled one of those nails. So when you put the screw in, it sits nice and flush. I don't want anything catching on the door as it closes or pushing this weather stripping out. All right, so now we'll take some of these 3-inch screws and secure the door frame. All right, so it just so happens I have a couple of old leftover door handles from our last house when I remodeled it. So I'm going to use these temporarily to secure the door to keep the house nice and sealed up until we purchase our nice handles. So we'll go ahead and put the latch catch in. All right, let's see how this fits. All right, this is a good time to also check for any light that you see, and I see some. You can see there is light down at the corner here on the door, and a slight amount here. So in the corners, all that we have to do, you can see how this weather stripping sits. You can actually put something behind the weather stripping, like say foam, on both sides to kick this out, and that will actually force a seal to the door. So I'll find a piece of like rubber tubing or foam. A lot of doors actually come with that. These did not. Just to push the weather stripping out in the corner, say like that, and you'll get the seal that you're looking for in the door. I think I'm gonna do that on all 4 corners. Probably the next time I go to the hardware store, I bet a nice piece of rubber tubing, very small rubber tubing in behind the weather seal will give me just what I'm looking for. All right, so now that we have the door secured, everything that's been checked, the reveal looks good. It's perfect as can be right now as far as mounting all the screws and tightening everything up. It's time to trim these shims out. A lot of people trim them flush with the door. Keep in mind, sheetrock has to come get laid on the wall and butted right to the door. We've made sure we got the proper size jamb to allow for 1/2 inch sheetrock. So I'm going to trim these off flush with the wall so that sheetrock can get butted as close as the drywallers can put it. You can score it with a razor knife and pop it off with a hammer. Sometimes it leaves a clean break on the shim, sometimes it doesn't. Since I've got my new handy dandy multi-tool, we're just going to trim them off with that. Alright, so one of the last steps is sealing the door itself up. Hindsight's 2020. I probably should have run a bead of caulk down behind this brick mold before I laid the door in, but I am not overly concerned about water penetration on these two doors because they're under a massive porch. It's going to be extremely difficult to get blowing, driving rain here. So I think a bead of caulk down the side will be perfectly fine, because don't forget, we're also going to run lap siding butt up to this and run another bead of caulk. So there'll be 2 beads of caulk right there, sealing out any rain that could potentially ever work its way behind the door. Plus, keep in mind, gravity tends to pull water down, not work it in all the way around the door. It's just not typically the way that happens. With the exception of the top, then gravity does want to pull it in, so we will do some weather stripping or flashing up there in just a second. Now, just because it's highly unlikely I'll ever get rain driven up here doesn't mean it won't happen. In the event of severe afternoon thunderstorms, hurricanes, things like that, there's always the possibility of driving rain hitting this, although I don't expect it very often at all. That's why we're going to I've been using this zip tape flashing on all of our windows. Really good product. It's a rubber butyl tape. Will actually stick to the house wrap. It sticks very well. And we'll roll it, leave just enough to stick over the top edge of this brick molding and basically create flashing. So as water were to ever get behind the siding, hit the house wrap, come down, it'll actually come out and over the door or around the sides where it'll go straight to the ground, just the way you want it. So I could have did a little better, less wrinkled job, but it still gets the job done. So you can see I've actually left this tape to where it concaves, seals to the top of this brick molding and to the house. So again, if water comes down, it wants to run up and out. All right, so the last thing to do to seal this door up is you've got this big gap all the way around. You always allow for a rough opening to adjust and get everything perfect. But this gap has to be filled. Otherwise, it goes straight to the outside, other than that little bit of caulk that we just put in. That doesn't really seal out air great, and it definitely doesn't make the door efficient. So, y'all have all seen on the channel, I've got this Great Stuff Pro foam gun that takes different types of foam, and the one that I've purchased for this job, for doors and windows, is their window and door. This is an open cell foam that does not expand rapidly and get hard like closed cell, which can actually push out and warp a frame. Although this one is screwed in and shimmed well, it probably wouldn't buckle that. Things like cheaper vinyl windows that are very flimsy on the side, closed cell foam actually can buckle those and make your window hard to open and close. So always go with open cell in this application. But this foam actually wedges itself in there, expands enough that it drives itself in all the nooks and crannies, and it gives you the best seal that you could possibly do. Now, if you're doing a house with regular insulation, you can also shove some of that fiberglass insulation in here, but this is going to give you a much better seal without a doubt. Even if you're doing fiberglass insulation in the wall, unlike us, I still suggest foam. And you don't have to purchase these expensive guns and these big cans of foam. You can get the regular cans that already come with a straw nozzle on there. They're disposable. They're made just for doing what I'm about to do right here. Now, the Great Stuff Pro gun also comes with a couple of these tip extension and nozzles you put on here. Got to keep in mind, this is 2x6 walls, and I need to get way back in this gap to fill it properly. Although this foam does expand, it will not drive itself all the way to the back of a 5.5 inch piece of wood. This helps you do that right there. Okay, so as far as this door goes, I'm going to install it, but not all the way. So what I'm going to do is put it in roughly, go ahead and shim it out to get it nice and square, nice flush, plumb, everything else. Shoot some screws in either side. We're done. I'm trying to get it set up so the sheetrockers can trim properly around the door, but this door, up until the house is almost completely finished, needs to be able to be removed in and out. That's including after I do the siding too, so I won't caulk up to it. And the reason being is, I have a man lift in the house. And although I did buy a man lift that will fit in and out of this door right here, there's a problem. It's this bottom foot plate right here. If I were to drive that 2,600 pound man lift back and forth over this, it would absolutely crush that, destroy it, and ruin our door. So I will have to be running the man lift in and out of the house in order to work on the porch. The sheetrockers, drywall guys are going to use it inside. I have so much electrical, hanging fans, everything else in the world to use it for inside. So it's going to have to make trips back and forth. So I'm going to leave this to where I can seal the house up, keep rodents, keep cats that's been visiting our house, leaving me presents inside, things like that out. Keep the house sealed up so that I'm not getting a bunch of humidity and all in there. But all I got to do is pop a couple screws out, pull the door out, set it on the side of the house, drive the man lift out, work, put the door back. It's a little aggravating. I'm almost considering putting an interior door here, but again, if I go ahead and get this shimmed out and set up properly today, I really need to use this door. So drywall fits perfectly to it, and if I decide to get on around to siding this side of the house, I can butt that up to it as well and can always put it back. I can't do that with an interior door or just some cheap exterior door I find online to stick here. So I really need to use this one. So it feels so weird having a door to come out of now. These are the little finishing touches and details. Although we still have months of finishing touches and details, these are the little things that starts making it feel more like a home. You can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. When you're just rough framing in and doing everything, it just feels like you still have forever, but these are the completion things. Now, yes, we're still many, many months away from completing this house. The next big change is going to be drywall. I cannot wait to get drywall up in this house. That's where it's really going to get exciting and feel like the house is nearing completion. Although I'm smart enough to know, even at that point, we're still probably only halfway done with the house. All the little detailed things inside, from the trim to the paint to the cabinets, the list goes on and on and on. Finishing electrical, that stuff takes forever. But it's going to be nice. It's a good working time of the year. We've almost got HVAC complete. I'm going to have y'all an episode out for that. So here before long, once we get rough and electrical done, we can get power in the house. So we'll be working inside with the radio going, maybe the HVAC going, the heater, whatever it is that we need while we're finishing this house out over the winter. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Hopefully you learned something about installing a door. I'll take any advice that you want to give. I'm just a homeowner. This is my version of how to install one. If I didn't have this big overhanging porch, I would have taken a lot of extra precautions today for driving rain. I just don't think we're ever going to see it right here under an 11-foot porch that goes out that way. Thank y'all so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode.